Dr. Sinjan, thank you for what I think is an extraordinarily generous introduction. And I'll come back to comment on that momentarily. But first and foremost, I want to extend my personal greetings and congratulations to the graduates. I'm delighted to have this pleasure to join Bishop Sinkula, President Novak, my colleagues on the Board of Trustees and faculty and staff, your family and friends, in honoring all of you here today. To extend to you congratulations and our sincere best wishes for your future, and to tell you how proud we are of what you've been able to accomplish. Now back to that introduction. Something else is bothering me. I need to ask, what family was it that said it was going to be a cold day in May before their kid graduated? I only saw 2 hands. But it's nice and comfortable in here. Anyway, that introduction was far too generous. And one of the things I need to tell you is that those things weren't just simply accomplished by an individual. I was fortunate to have beside me hundreds and maybe even thousands of outstanding men and women whose shoulders I stood on. They were the ones that helped make Ambrose what it is today. I was fortunate enough to be able to preside over that period of time and perhaps paint the vision for what was to be. But nevertheless, graduates, I want you to know that even as you have accomplished something, take the time to give credit to those who helped bring you to where you are today. And I want to do a little corollary too about a lesson in humility. I was a young pup, worked my first 3 years in professional education at Parsons College in Fairfield, Iowa. And at the end of a 3-year stint there, I had planned to return to graduate school to complete my master's and undertake the duration of my doctorate. The City Fathers were most generous. I had engaged in community service while there, and they hosted a little reception for me as I was leaving. During the time of that reception, the then mayor got up and said, "Ed Rogalski is a pillar of this community." My associate pastor from St. Mary's in Fairfield is seated to my right. He leans over and, not in a stage whisper, says, "And you know what dogs do to pillars." I carry the humility with me. You know, it says it's generally common that most graduates don't really remember their commencement speaker, let alone whatever special words they may have imparted on that day. I think sometimes it requires a particular kind of internal feeling or identification that puts you in touch with that particular message. For me, when I graduated in 1965, my commencement speaker was the U.S. Senator from Oregon. His name was Wayne Morse, kind of a maverick of the Senate. He ran as a Republican, he ran as a Democrat, he ran as an independent. But he chose that particular day and that particular commencement to voice his objection to ensuing conflict in a community and country called Vietnam. Now, that may have held some special interest for me because I was a student of history and political science, and of course that had some affinity. But I think there was something more operational here in terms of what happens after the fact. 3 years later, I'm appointed the Dean of Students at St. Ambrose. And I come to a campus where the young men are voicing their displeasure with the military situation. There was protests of the war and a great deal of anxiety over the subscription program that the government was putting into place. The draft, if you will, at that time, it was under a number system. So if you had a high call number, you were more safe, and if you had a lower one, you were sure to go. So I remembered all that and all that anxiety with amongst those young men, and we all grew up pretty fast back then. But you know what? Today is a special day, and it should be and is a day of happiness and celebration. And maybe to help share a little bit of the joy of this day, I'm going to tell you one other special commencement speech memory from years past, and hopefully it'll resonate with you. And maybe some of our professors who've been here for quite a while, it may tickle your memory. Some 30 years ago, St. Ambrose hosted a Mr. Andrew Young, who was the former mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, a former UN ambassador for the United States, as the commencement speaker. He was very impressed with the amount of students who were gaining honors that day. But without skipping a beat, he shared with the graduates and with the audience that he did not graduate cum laude, but rather, oh, thank the Lordy. Like Mr. Young, I'm duly impressed with all the honors that are being received today. If you look at your program, it seems like almost every other student is getting cum laude or magna cum laude or summa cum laude. And it's important that we do give that acknowledgement and, the kudos. But it's all about graduation today. And that's the most important thing that's taking place. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the top half of your class or in the bottom half of your class. What's important is that you've made it. Some of you may remember our former president, George Bush, was just a C average student when he was at Yale. And he joked that he was more known for his social life than for his grades. It may be that some of you in the audience might be mirroring his performance, I'm not sure. But, it's a matter of a track record. But remember, folks, every individual, no matter what their grade point average is at the end, particularly at every medical school in this country, will graduate and be called doctor. So, it's not my intent to lecture you or preach to you today, although I might take some liberties. I've been a 20-something, and I don't believe any of you are octogenarians. But what I intend to do is convey some simple but profound takeaways in perhaps a little less formal fashion. And I want to personalize these words in the spirit of our beloved mascot, the Ambrose bee, okay? As well in the parlance of all the marketeers that use that Ambrose bee for their particular advertising. But simply put, I'm going to ask you to strive to be the best bee that you can be. I was born and raised in a little town in New Jersey called Manville. I was the youngest of 8 children of Polish immigrant parents. Amongst them, they had the equivalent of a fixed 5th and 6th grade education. But they were my first teachers. And the life lessons that they taught me did not come by way of formal education. But they taught me all the basic fundamentals of what it means to be a good person. Love of God, love of neighbor, good and bad, whatever. But they even took it to another level because they engaged me in some developmental principles. One of them was to always strive for personal excellence, character development. Always work to the best of your ability, a simple work ethic that was very important to our family and all of us because we all worked from a very early age to make things go at home. And then social responsibility in terms of embracing leadership and serving others. In that small town of Manville, New Jersey, the main employer was an industrial plant. They mainly produced insulation, and the major byproduct was asbestos. All of you who watch television probably see ads for mesothelioma. As you might imagine, this was a very undesirable place of employment. But for many back home, including members of my family and most of my high school graduate friends, classmates, that plant provided the only means for a living. None of my siblings were blessed with a formal education, so it became very important to me and my family when the decision was made for me to experience higher education. And they were hoping that it was destined for a career that would take me far away from Johns Manville Corporation. But when I was segueing from grade school to high school, I had to meet with the guidance counselor. And it was his job to help me select a course of study. Naturally, I wanted to pursue the college prep program because I was dreaming of going to college. It was my family's goal for me to go to college, and I was ready for it. Sadly, the counselor I met with had other ideas. He noted that since none of my family attended college and were essentially working in blue-collar jobs, my future would not be the same, and I should simply resign myself by enrolling in the vocational technical program. That counselor became my greatest motivation towards achieving my goals, to become the best possible student that I could be. I worked to the best of my ability to master every subject matter. My motivation paid off. I earned academic honors all the semesters that I attended high school, and that, coupled with my engagement with some leadership activity on campus, produced numerous scholarships and awards that made it possible for me to go to college, to graduate, to be named Dean of Students at St. Ambrose, and 20 years later retire as its president. So, the big takeaway, folks, don't let anyone discourage you from your life's dreams or your hopes. The goals that you establish for yourself, they're all attainable. And if you strive to be the best that you can be and work to the best of your ability, that future success will be assured. I'm sure your parents and mentors and faculty, all like mine, encouraged you to do your best. Just do your best, Ed. You will need to commit to a lifelong learning experience. And you will need to devote yourself to a persistent search for truth. Being human, no doubt there will be a time or a few times where you won't meet the expectations that you have for your own self or that others may have set for you. But the way you handle that adversity is significant to understanding your personal growth and your mindset. To be the best that you can be means a resolve to constant improvement. Remember, if you're not growing, you're declining, and if anything, settling for mediocrity. In a few minutes, you're going to walk across the stage and officially become a college graduate. It's an esteemed distinction. Fewer than 40% of the adults in our United States hold a college degree. In the room today, we have many aspiring individuals: nurses, teachers, business managers, journalists, social workers, artists, and so much more. It may not be clear to you right now, but earning this degree and engaging in your chosen vocation presents for you the privilege to lead. And I believe that individuals who prescribe to leading others as a privilege intuitively see it as service. To aspire to a position where you can positively guide, impact, and focus the potential of many people to achieve specific results is laudable and admirable. So as you embark on this new chapter in your life as a leader, let me ask you something. What will you aspire to? To what purpose will you share the personal gifts that you have with those around you? How will you improve this world and support those who stand in need of your help? I ask you in the true spirit of St. Ambrose University that you aspire to greatness by simply showing people that you care. By giving of yourself into service of others, you're going to enjoy the satisfaction of a meaningful life. You're going to leave a legacy for others to admire and emulate. And it will also serve as a potential change agent for society. And you might see that as a daunting task. But if you simply perform ordinary things in an extraordinary manner, your path to serving the common good is there. I'd like to end this talk with the prayer and in terms of a blessing upon you. Loving God, look with favor on these graduates of St. Ambrose University. Grant them strength of body and mind to be able to fulfill the mission of St. Ambrose. Enrich their lives so they may in turn enrich the lives of others. For this we pray, amen. Now, graduates, congratulations. Thanks for sharing your special day with me. And go forth and be the best you can be. Thank you.